I am N.S. Venkatraman. I am speaking on behalf of Nandini Consultancy Center, a firm of chemical engineers and chemical business consultants based in Chennai and Singapore. The ongoing Russian-Ukraine conflict has caused skyrocketing of the crude oil price in the global market. At one time, during the last few days, the price of Brent crude oil has touched $140 per barrel, which is a very high figure. Now, in the course of days, for the subsequent days, it is now going around 115 to 125 US dollar per barrel. There are some experts who have predicted that in case the present Ukraine-Russian conflict would continue for a long time, it is possible that the price of crude oil in the global market could go up to $200 per barrel, which is a figure even impossible to conceive right now at this stage. This kind of a huge rise in the international price of crude oil has caused a severe crisis situation for India. This is because India's 85% of the crude oil is now made by import. The government of India reacted to the situation by simply raising the price of petrol and diesel and trying to transfer the burden to the people. Many people wonder and many people understand the compulsions faced by the government of India. At the same time, people also think whether government of India has exercised all options to tackle this grievous situation instead of simply opting for the easy way of raising the price of petrol and diesel. The government of India has not come out with any explanation as to how the other options it has examined and how it has decided that the increase in the price of petrol and diesel is the only option out. No credible explanation has come from the government of India. Now let us look at the scenario. India presently produces just around 32 billion tons of crude oil per annum. Now, all of us know that the life of the oil wells are not long. So it is now further production is not being increased, and it appears that in the next few years, there is unlikely to be a significant increase in the production of crude oil in India. It will be a tough task even to maintain the crude oil production at the present level. At the same time, India imports around 35 billion cubic meter of natural gas, and the present production of natural gas in India is only around 32 billion cubic meter. So India's requirement of crude oil is 85% is met by import, and India's requirement of natural gas is more than 50% is met by import. So you look at the very, very serious condition faced by India due to the international price increase of crude oil and natural gas. Now this is the scenario. Crude oil production is not going to go up. At the same time, the demand for crude oil is going up in the country at around 6 to 7% on average. So experts predict that if this trend would continue, if this India's import dependency of the crude oil will naturally continue, demand growth will continue, then by 2030, India's import of crude oil could be well over 300 million tons per year, which is a very, very tough scenario. Right now, 27% of the Indian foreign exchange earnings is accounted by the crude oil. That is based on the price of crude oil at the level of $60 per barrel. Now the price of the crude oil is touching around $115, $125 per barrel. The outflow of foreign exchange due to import of crude oil in the country is likely to rise sharply from present 27% to as much as 35% and more. This will cause a serious foreign exchange crisis for India. How are we going to anticipate? Now, what the government has done is, by increasing the price of the petrol and diesel, it has tried to protect the economics of the oil marketing companies, that is the refineries who process the crude oil to produce diesel and petrol. So it is trying to protect the economics of the oil market companies. But what about the economics of the country? See, when the country has to import the same level of crude oil, and which is increasing day after day due to the demand growth, and the price of the crude oil is skyrocketing, and the dollar rupee value equation is now breaching around 77 rupees per dollar, then what is going to happen? The amount of foreign exchange that is going to go on this crude oil import is going to be very high because of the crude oil price. Government of India has to change the situation. So by raising the price of diesel and petrol, it is serving the limited purpose of protecting the economics of the oil marketing companies, not the economics of India. The government of India has to be aware of this. Then what is needed right now is some drastic steps have to be taken to curtail the consumption of crude oil in the country. That is the only option. The government of India is taking several steps to reduce the consumption of crude oil in the country, no doubt. It is now trying to promote solar power. It is trying to promote wind power. Excellent results have been made on this. It is now trying to promote hydrogen economy. It is now trying to provide electric vehicles, boost the production of electric vehicles. But all these are long-term solutions, not immediate solutions in the next 1 or 2 months when the country is confronted with such a crude oil price. Then what is the option? The option is somehow curtail the consumption of the crude oil in the country. Consequently, the consumption of petrol and diesel in the country. Do this without raising the price of crude oil, petrol and diesel. Because when you simply raise the price of petrol and diesel on a day-to-day basis, it is upsetting the entire economics of the operations of the industries and services sector. Nobody is able to plan what is going to happen. Nobody is able to give prices. When the government of India has now increased the price of petrol and diesel, already we are seeing the impact. Price of wheat is going up, price of rice is going up, price of every commodity is going up. Agriculture farming operation also become more expensive because farmers use diesel for running the tractor. That means agriculture produce price is also going up. It is going to be all round cost push inflation in the country, which this country cannot afford. And the present price of petrol and diesel is already very high, considering the purchasing power of the common man in the country. So this is not an option at all. Increase the price of the petrol and diesel is not an option at all. It is a negative scheme that has been thought of by the government of India. We should have taken more bold steps, more imaginative steps to find out how to curtail the consumption of the petrol, the crude oil. If the crude oil consumption is controlled at least by 25% from the present level, import of crude oil is brought down at least by 25% from the present level. Even if the price of the crude oil in the global market is going to stay as per the $115, $120 per barrel, then the outflow of foreign exchange will remain almost steady. It will not become impossible kind of a foreign exchange outflow. So the government of India is now trying to protect the economics of the OMC, oil marketing company, not the economics of the country. All government of India has to do is protect the economics of the oil marketing companies, protect the economics of the country by ensuring that crude oil import will come down. Consequent foreign exchange outflow will remain actually at the present time. How to reduce this crude oil consumption? Internationally, the pattern of demand for crude oil is 50% of the crude oil goes only for transportation purposes. India also same situation. Around 50% of the crude oil, petrol and diesel consumption in India today goes for transportation purposes. So one arrangement that has to be done is reduce the transportation expense, allotment of petrol and diesel for transportation sector. People have to travel less. People have to use less petrol. People have to use less diesel. Is it possible? It is certainly possible. My suggestion would be like this. One is close all the petrol bunks on Saturday and Sunday. Don't sell petrol, don't sell diesel. That's number one. People will say, no, people can buy on Saturdays. They can buy on Saturdays, but people will be aware the country is facing a crisis and people will cooperate and understand the need for reducing the consumption of the petrol and diesel. That's number one. Take the strategy. Number one, close the petrol bunk in the first place. Second is cut down the transport, human transport buses, public transport buses, public diesel trains by at least 25 to 30% immediately. That means people will find trains are not available or buses are not available, so they will have to curtail the transport. Then they will not travel unnecessarily. That will happen. That will definitely reduce the consumption substantially. Third is now the work to home policy that is very much evident in the country today. Let the government ask all companies to force the employees or make the employees work from home wherever it is possible and technically feasible. Number three. Number four, ask the people to combine transports and pooling together resources. Here, top bureaucrats and politicians have to set up an example. Are the politicians setting an example? No, not at all. For example, a chief minister of a state goes from one place to another place by road, by car. You find 15 cars following him and 15 cars going ahead of him. Is it necessary? Chief minister can sit only in one car. Then have one car, one more car. Why 15 this side? Why 15 that side? Totally wasteful. Recently, a chief minister was sworn in one state. Then it is reported in the media 10 aircrafts are booked for bringing the VIPs to various places to attend the swearing in ceremony. Why? They could have seen the swearing ceremony by television. It's quite possible. Why should they come and present? That means even as the country is facing the crisis, chief ministers are not containing the travel or the excess car, and politicians are not traveling less, but they are taking 10 aircraft attending this. Recently, a chief minister has gone abroad. When he has gone abroad for a business meet, along with officials, perhaps family members, I don't know, he has taken a special private aircraft. Why? Why private aircraft? It is going to be so expensive. Why don't you go for Air India? Why they do this? The politicians have to set an example, and they are not setting an example. That's number one issue. The bureaucrats have to set up an example. Travel less. Politicians travel less. Secondly, when the most of bureaucrats stay in government quarters, then what is happening here? The houses are not far off between each other. Let them pool there is always. Let instead of taking each man one car, take two or three people join together and take a car and go together, reduce it. Then cumulative effect will be very phenomenal all over India. Then industries are using diesel. Ask the industry to use coal, or ask the industry to use biomass. This is easily said and done because coal supply is already tough in India. Biomass availability is scarce, but still try, make an attempt to do this wherever it is possible to do that. So the whole emphasis has to be on containing the consumption of crude or petrol, concerning the consumption of diesel, and let the government of India fix a target of reducing the consumption of petrol and diesel by 25% and reduce the crude oil import by 25%. Is it possible? Will it work? It will work. In the past, we find situations during the COVID period when the Prime Minister appealed to the people, people responded. See, people responded, people cared for the Prime Minister's call, understood the compulsion of the situation, and cooperated very responsibly. I will give you a case study. A few decades back, when Mr. Lal Bahadur Shastri was the Prime Minister of India, there was a food shortage in the country. Then Mr. Lal Bahadur Shastri gave a clarion call to the countrymen, miss a meal one day in a week. I was a student then. None of us ate for the day. Monday evening, nobody will. After 5 o'clock, none of us will eat. The whole country responded. Now it is very symbolic. Has it really solved the food crisis? It has a little extent. But what is very important is people have responded to the call for them and keeping the national need in view. Here, this is also possible. By and large, Indians are very responsible people. They have to be taken into confidence. The logic of the situation has been explained to them. The reason for the government decision has been explained to them. My appeal to the Prime Minister is he commands enormous influence in the country today. People take him very seriously. People listen to him very respectfully. His credibility is very high. All of us know. Given the situation, when the Prime Minister comes to the people over television, take the people into confidence about the problem, explain the intensity of the problem, and tell them that I don't want to increase the price of the petrol and diesel because it's upsetting the national intensity, it is destabilizing the industries, it is causing all around cost push inflation. So I do not have an option of increasing the price. But outflow of foreign exchange is going. The only way of doing it is containing the crude oil import. When they contain the crude oil import, naturally production of diesel and petrol will also come down. So you have to cooperate. The best way of doing it is reduce the transportation. Please let the Prime Minister appeal to the people, please travel less. Let the Prime Minister appeal to the people, conserve the petrol, diesel, don't waste it. All that is not permanent. Let the Prime Minister also give an appeal to them. I don't know, let Prime Minister say how long the international price of crude oil is going to remain high. Nobody knows. Even the President of America, the USA doesn't know. Even the President of Russia doesn't know. Nobody knows what's happening. So Prime Minister, let you give a solemn assurance to the people, this restriction will stay on until the global crude oil, Brent price global crude oil price will become $80 barrel or less. Until then, it will be there. When the price comes to less than $80 per barrel, let Prime Minister withdraw all the restrictions. I take it today, let the Prime Minister make an appeal to the people, take the people into confidence, and then it will work out a solution. Going for increasing the price of petrol and diesel is a counterproductive decision. It shows lack of confidence of the government to take that decisions. It shows lack of confidence of the government to bite the bullet. And it's a very silly attempt to transfer the burden to the people, thinking the government has saved itself. You are trying to protect the economics of the oil marketing company by transferring the burden to the people. You are not protecting the economics of the country. Government has to protect the economics of the country. Government has to protect the economics of the oil marketing companies. Government has to protect the interests of the people. All these things can be done only by curtailing the import of crude oil by 25% and curtailing the import of petrol, curtailing the use of petrol and diesel by 25%. Let the Prime Minister do it. I am confident that it will work. Thank you very much.